You're sitting in traffic, scrolling through LinkedIn, watching some 23-year-old crypto bro post about grinding while you're wondering if you'll ever think past next month's rent. Here's what nobody tells you about the difference between rich people and broke people. It's not the money, it's not the connections, it's not even the opportunities. It's how their brains process time, risk, and systems. And the crazy part? You can rewire your brain to think like a billionaire without having $1 billion. There are 3 specific mental frameworks that separate people who build generational wealth from people who stay financially stuck forever. And once you understand these patterns, you'll never look at money, decisions, or opportunities the same way again. These aren't motivational platitudes about thinking positive. These are cognitive frameworks that you can literally install in your brain today. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're about to break down the exact mental operating system that turns ordinary people into wealth-building machines and why your current thinking patterns are mathematically designed to keep you broke. Let's talk about why billionaires think in decades while broke people think in weeks, and how this single shift in time horizon can be worth millions over your lifetime. The first mental framework that separates billionaires from everyone else is something psychologists call temporal discounting, but I'm going to explain it in a way that'll actually change how you think. Here's the thing, about broke people, they optimize for immediate relief from financial pressure. Rich people optimize for maximum compound returns over decades. These aren't just different strategies, they're completely different ways of experiencing time itself. Let me show you what I mean with a real example that'll blow your mind. Average person sees $10,000 windfall and thinks, finally, I can pay off my credit cards and breathe easier. Billionaire mindset sees the same $10,000 and thinks, this is $160,000 in purchasing power 30 years from now at 10% returns. What's the highest leverage use of this capital? The broke person gets immediate psychological relief. The billionaire gets exponential wealth accumulation. Same money, completely different outcomes based purely on how they process time. This is what venture capitalists mean when they talk about patient capital. They're not just being patient with money, they're operating with a fundamentally different relationship to time itself. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't about delaying gratification. That's kindergarten level advice. This is about reframing your entire concept of present value versus future value. Billionaires don't see a trade-off between present enjoyment and future wealth. They see present decisions as either accelerating or decelerating their compound growth trajectory. When Elon Musk was sleeping on friends' couches and showering at the YMCA while building his first company, he wasn't sacrificing his present for his future. In his mind, he was making optimal resource allocation decisions to maximize long-term outcome probability. Same actions, completely different mental framework, and that framework difference is worth billions. Here's what this looks like in practical terms. Average person buys a $50,000 car and thinks, I can afford the payments. Billionaire mindset calculates $50,000 compounded at market returns over 30 years equals $872,470 in opportunity cost. Am I getting $872,470 worth of utility from this transportation upgrade? Most of the time, the answer is no. So they drive a reliable used car and invest the difference. But here's the part that's going to mess with your head. They're not being cheap, they're being mathematically optimal. They've trained their brains to see money not as a spending medium, but as a growth medium. Every dollar is either working to compound wealth or it's working against compound wealth. There's no neutral. This is why Warren Buffett still lives in the house he bought in 1958 for $31,500, not because he's frugal, but because upgrading his house doesn't optimize his compound growth trajectory. Meanwhile, that same guy will spend $4 billion on a single investment if the numbers make sense. It's not about the absolute amount, it's about the return on investment. The second mental framework is how billionaires think about risk versus reward. And this is going to completely flip everything you think you know about being responsible with money. Broke people try to avoid risk. Rich people try to optimize risk. These are fundamentally different approaches to uncertainty, and they produce wildly different results over time. Here's what most people get backwards about risk. They think rich people are bigger risk takers. That's not true. Rich people are better risk calculators. They don't take big risks, they take calculated risks with asymmetric upside potential. There's a massive difference, and understanding it can literally change your financial trajectory. Let me explain asymmetric risk with an example that'll make this crystal clear. Average person sees starting a business and thinks, I could lose everything. Billionaire mindset sees the same opportunity and thinks, I can lose a maximum of $50,000 and 18 months of time. But if this works, it could generate $5 million in value over 5 years. That's a 100-to-1 upside to downside ratio. This is actually a low-risk, high-reward opportunity. Same opportunity, completely different risk assessment. The broke person is focused on the absolute loss potential. The billionaire is focused on the risk-adjusted expected value. This is what rich people seem to get lucky more often. They're not getting lucky, they're taking more asymmetric bets where the upside massively outweighs the downside. But here's where most people completely misunderstand how wealthy people think about security. They think rich people don't value security. That's wrong. Rich people just define security differently. Average person defines security as steady paycheck and benefits. Billionaire defines security as multiple income streams, liquid assets, and skills that create value in any economic environment. The secure job can disappear overnight. The skills that create value for others, those compound over decades. This is why billionaires invest heavily in learning, networking, and building systems instead of optimizing for salary and benefits. They're playing a completely different game with completely different rules. Here's a perfect example. During the 2008 financial crisis, people with secure corporate jobs got laid off by the millions. Meanwhile, people who had built businesses, investment portfolios, and valuable skills often thrived because they had diversified value creation and weren't dependent on a single income source. The secure relationship turned out to be more secure than the safe approach. This is what billionaires mean when they talk about anti-fragility. They don't just want to survive negative events, they want to benefit from them. So they structure their finances and careers to get stronger during disruptions, while everyone else gets weaker. Economic crisis, they buy assets when they're cheap. Industry disruption, they've already diversified into the disrupting technology. The third mental framework is systems thinking versus event thinking, and this might be the most important difference of all. Broke people focus on individual events and outcomes. Rich people focus on systems and processes that generate consistent results over time. This shift alone can be worth millions over a lifetime. Here's what I mean. Average person gets a bonus and thinks, great, now I can buy that thing I wanted. Systems thinker gets the same bonus and thinks, how do I systematize whatever generated this bonus so it happens more frequently and predictably? One person optimizes for the event. The other person reverse engineers and scales the system that created the event. This is why billionaires are obsessed with building processes, teams, and systems instead of just working harder. They understand that systems scale exponentially, while individual effort scales linearly. One person working 80 hours a week can generate limited value, but a system that works 24/7 with hundreds of people can generate unlimited value. Let me show you how this works in practice. When Sarah Blakely invented Spanx, she didn't just create a product. She created a system for identifying underserved markets, developing solutions, building brand loyalty, and scaling distribution. The product was the output. The system was the wealth generator. 20 years later, that system has generated over $1 billion in value because it keeps producing new solutions to new problems. But here's what's really powerful about systems thinking. It's not just about business. Systems thinking applies to everything, not just business. Billionaires systematize their health, their learning, their networking, their decision-making, their time management. They don't just want good outcomes. They want systems that reliably produce good outcomes without constant intervention. Average person says, I need to eat healthier, and tries to use willpower to make better food choices. Systems thinker says, I need to design an environment where healthy choices become automatic. So they organize their kitchen, plan their meals, hire a trainer, join a gym with friends. They remove willpower from the equation and let the system do the work. This is why rich people seem like superhuman discipline and productivity. They don't have better willpower, they have better systems. They've automated the decisions and behaviors that generate wealth, so they don't have to rely on motivation and self-control, which are finite resources that fail under stress. But here's where systems thinking gets really powerful in wealth building. Once you understand that money is just a byproduct of value creation systems, you stop chasing money and start building systems that attract money automatically. This is the difference between a job and a business. A job trades time for money. A business is a system that generates money independent of your time input. This is why every billionaire eventually transitions from earning money through personal effort to earning money through systems they own. Warren Buffett doesn't personally analyze every investment. He's built a system of processes, people, and principles that identifies and executes great investments. Jeff Bezos doesn't personally run Amazon operations. He built a system that delivers value to customers automatically. Now, here's how you actually install these mental frameworks in your brain, because understanding them intellectually is worthless if you don't change your actual thought patterns and decision-making processes. The first step is time horizon extension training. Every time you make a every financial decision, force yourself to calculate the 10-year and 20-year implications. That $200 monthly subscription might seem insignificant today, but over 10 years, it's $24,000, and over 20 years, it's $48,000. Suddenly, that decision has real weight because you're thinking in decades instead of months. But don't stop at financial decisions. Apply decade thinking to everything. Career choices, skill development, relationship building, health habits. Ask yourself, what are the compound effects of this decision over 10 years? This single question will dramatically improve your long-term outcomes because you'll start optimizing for compound benefits instead of immediate rewards. The second step is asymmetric risk training. Start looking for opportunities where you can lose a small, defined amount but potentially gain multiples of that amount. This could be taking an online course that costs $500 but could increase your earning potential by $50,000, or starting a side business with $2,000 in startup costs that could generate $100,000 in annual revenue. The key is defining your maximum downside before you start and only taking risks where the upside is at least 10 times the downside. This trains your brain to spot asymmetric opportunities and calculate risk mathematically instead of emotionally. The third step is systems identification and replication. Look at every positive outcome in your life and ask, what system or process generated this result? Then figure out how to systematize and scale that process. Got a promotion? What were the specific behaviors and strategies that led to recognition? Systematize those and repeat them consistently. Made a great investment? What was your research process, decision criteria, and execution method? Turn that into a repeatable investment system. Had a particularly productive week? What were the scheduling, prioritization, and focus techniques that worked? Build those into your permanent operating system. But here's what most people miss about billionaire thinking. It's not about becoming emotionally detached from money or turning into some calculating robot. It's about developing cognitive frameworks that optimize for your long-term success and fulfillment. Billionaires aren't less happy because they think systematically. They're more fulfilled because their systems consistently generate the outcomes they want. The reality is that most people stay broke not because they lack opportunities or resources, but because they're running outdated mental software that optimizes for the wrong outcomes. They're trying to build wealth with a mindset designed for survival and immediate gratification. It's like running modern applications on a computer from 1995. The hardware might be capable, but the operating system is the bottleneck. Upgrading your mental operating system to think like a billionaire doesn't require having billions of dollars. It requires understanding that wealth is primarily a cognitive game, not just a money game. The people who figure this out early get decades of compound advantage. The people who figure it out late still benefit, but they lose years of potential compound growth. Your brain is the most powerful wealth-building tool you'll ever own, but only if you program it correctly. Most people are running their brains on default settings that were designed for a completely different economic environment. Billionaires have customized their mental software for maximum wealth generation in the modern economy. The choice is yours. You can keep thinking like everyone else and get the same results everyone else gets, or you can install these 3 mental frameworks and start building the kind of long-term, systematic wealth that actually changes your life. The knowledge is free, the implementation is up to you.